building wealth flow. So how's it been, man?
Man, it's been a busy week suffering down at the coast on one of our short term rentals. So I was working hard on that short term rental, but I appreciated you while I was driving back. We were trying to work through a topic, and I really do think this is a good topic, and it's very timely. Some videos have been put out there recently talking on some of this stuff.
But where did you stop by also yesterday? You told me you're at.
Hold on, my
Yeah, don't worry, it's tricky.
what'd you say?
Where were you? Where did you stop by yesterday when you messaged
Oh,
me?
I was at the largest Bucky's in the world yesterday, 75,000 square feet.
Yep. One day I'll probably hit that one, but I've only been to the South Carolina one so far. But yes, Bucky's is amazing. But yeah, definitely, like I said, it's always hard to come up with topics. So sometimes, I see people putting out the same videos over and over, copying each other. So it is hard to come up with ideas once in a while. But I did find one that I did want to touch on. And like you said, I think it's a great one to discuss today. But it's kind of the rules that kind of no longer work today. Like the game has changed, right? So there's certain rules that maybe 30, 40 years ago you're kind of advised to follow or play with. But they're definitely a way to maybe hold you back in some extent, right? So was there
Right.
you wanna let's see, I'll go over all eight first and then we can discuss maybe a few that stick out. So number one was hard work guarantees progress, right?
Yep.
We got loyalty is rewarded, education secures your future, play it safe and be patient. Number five is save money and avoid risk. Six is follow your passion. Seven is stability is the finish line. And number eight was optionality is the new finish line. So is there any of those that you want to dig into a little bit?
Yeah, I thought of them overnight, several of them, and I think it's a unique experience. Here I am in my 50s, and I have actually, I've seen this over the last couple of decades. Remembering back, I can remember, I'm going to date myself. I can remember early 80s for sure, um, where most people's careers, they were there for decades. And they did what worked back then was staying loyal to those companies. Technology changed, but it was definitely a much slower pace of change where they could have time to absorb it and make improvements. But we've watched over the decades, and even I have experienced it personally. Um, Businesses just blow up big and can literally die in a year because a new technology or something comes out and things rapidly change. And it's hard to say, hey, I'm going to get this career, other than you firefighters, I'm going to have this career for 40 years of my life, or even, or for, yeah, maybe it's 20 for y'all, because that's about all y'all can do. Uh, but have a career for many decades and know that it's going to survive and thrive. You just don't see that anymore. And so you feel that instability. Personal example. So our family, we had a family business. I was actually the third generation, which those are pretty unusual. My grandfather started it in 1967. So here, 1967, all the way to the 2000s, that's a pretty unusual business. But technology was changing so rapidly that literally within a few years, it went from a viable business to almost non-existent. And you're saying, what is this business? We were an advertising agency that placed ads in the yellow pages for national companies. It went from viable to dead in just a few years. We barely got out in time. And I shared with my dad, I was the CFO and chief operating officer. I said, Dad, we've got to sell this while there's something left to sell, because I saw it dying and collapsing big. We sold out literally within a year or two before it just collapsed. Most everybody in that industry filed bankruptcy. We sold out and got a few dollars before it completely collapsed, but it was such a good industry for our family for 40 plus years, 40, almost 50 years, for 3 generations. So we experienced it too. And you can't rely on that stability because technology changes so fast. So there's a personal story to this.
For you, I'm not. I don't want to call you out on your age again. You're not. You're not 60 yet, right? You're still
No,
in. No, no, no,
no.
no, no. But I mean, so you are slightly older than me. But I mean, I believe it's still the. I grew up definitely that it was like almost you had to get a college degree, right? So that's what I grew up on. Is like if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to find a job. It was almost like the
And I
boogeyman,
remember
right?
that too. Yeah. I mean, I grew up, I graduated, I graduated college in 94. Well, I graduated in a recession and it was a challenge. The kids coming out right now, I'm talking to several, they're struggling finding positions, partly because AI is taking some of those positions and people are not wanting to hire somebody without the experience. It's just a challenge. And I was reassuring him, keep pressing forward. What I'm seeing more now, and this would be the advice I'm giving to my kids even right now, is these kids that are in college. I don't know if the value is definitely, it's not the same value it was when I graduated. We're coming into a careers and lives now that there's less and less specific careers that require that college degree, and the cost is so has escalated so much, it's not worth it all the time. So these kids coming out now, the ones that are coming out with jobs started in internships. So they're doing internships in college, and those are the ones that are having the easiest time finding careers.
I think the tricky part though is you have to kind of balance it because you almost have to get a college degree because almost everyone has it now. So it's like
Right.
it's the only way to put you in the same playing field. But at the same time, I think the struggle though is the amount of debt some people accumulate from it. So that's the balancing act, right? I think I'm not saying getting a degree is the only way to do it or it's that important, but it's almost like if you don't have it, you're just behind a lot of other people when you apply for a position, right?
It's a challenge, and the metric I've heard recently, if you're saying, "Hey," because I haven't heard a metric till just this year, is one time if you're gonna have to get student loans, only get student loans of one time your first year's salary in that position. So that changes based off the type of degree that you're getting. So if you're getting a more higher end degree, you might be able to get 50, 60, 70,000. A doctor might be a little more, but if it's a different degree where the starting salary is in the 40s, well, then it scales appropriately. So you shouldn't do more than one times your first year's salary. And as lower below that, the better. The less than that 1 year is the optimum where you want to be, or ideally optimum zero. But it's really picking these schools because that's what we're challenged. We're in this right now with our kids. My kids are a little older than yours, Mark, but we're picking and helping them understand the value of certain schools versus some of these higher end private schools that are charging. Here, TCU, right here in Fort Worth, TCU is now more expensive than Harvard. They just escalated above Harvard and they're running 80 above 80,000 a year. And it's just the value exchange is not there versus we've got schools here locally. There's a great Division 1 school that their cost is 21,000 for an entire year to get the exact same degree.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why Hyder's also bringing up about the blue collar, right? So I always perceived that blue collar was looked at a less than while white collar were the ones getting ahead. That pendulum is swinging back. No, so yeah, definitely that is definitely what you were sold. And like I said, for myself, in high school, that was being sold to me, right? Like almost as if
Yes.
no, I think I believe there still was shop in when I was finishing up high school, but I'm pretty sure most places it's obsolete now.
The
I think
trade programs are
yeah.
becoming more popular, and the schools are reintroducing a lot of those trade platforms. I know in my local community, right where I'm at right now, they have trade programs for HVAC and electrician where they're doing that in high school. They're doing these apprenticeship type programs, which I think everybody's going towards this apprenticeship model, going back to it. And these trades are not going to be replaced by AI, or very little anyway. And trades are a very good path. Even owning that trade, I think there's opportunities now for our kids of what their natural skill set, if they're more mechanical, which I wasn't. But it's a very good opportunity, as good as heck. And I mean this, even doctors, good tradesmen that have some business skills that open up a small business in an HVAC or electrical type company, they're making as much as any doctor. It's a very good path.
I think like an ideal situation would be, yeah, you go right into the trades right out of high school.
Hmm.
Because I believe probably within 12 to 18 months, you can already start earning. And then maybe go to college then and get your degree,
Right.
so that would be a great way to do it too, where you're not maybe hopefully incurring a lot of debt to get some sort of degree would also work well.
And circle back, let's follow back up on this first premise. The loyalty, and this kind of all ties together, is staying in one career and that loyalty, because things change a little slower. That model, there was like a golden era where that model worked, and I would say that golden era came from the 70s till about the mid 90s was where it was really dying, where you could work a career, put your money, well, pensions were before that. So there was that golden era of pensions that has been phased out, and now it's these 401k plans. And there was an era where everybody was putting their money in 401k plans, which was pumping up the stock market. And I'll give example. So from 1980 to 2000, the S&P 500 was at 14.7% growth for those 20 years. That was the era where everybody was pumping money into the stock market because it wasn't getting eat up by inflation. So then we go to the next era where the transitions and less people are putting as much in Wall Street, and they're starting to realize you can make money outside of Wall Street and do better. So the next era, so let's take that. So from 1980 to 2000, it was 14.7. From 2000 to the end of 2024, there's another 25 years. The S&P 500 only averaged 7.3%, cut in half. And that's why this group now, and I think there's a group that this is resonating. These old models are not working. The Millionaire Next Door, that was the old model written from the 80s and early 90s. Well, that model doesn't work anymore, and you can't get ahead. You can't save fast enough because inflation and taxes eat up all your returns. Sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox preaching on this, but
Sorry, I was just sharing you guys YouTube channels and handles. Putting Brady's one out there, Brandon's one, Gus's Instagram. But Brady just came out with a book, so go check out his YouTube channel where he kind of discusses his new book. But definitely, yeah, I totally agree. I think for myself, fortunately, my career still has a pension. I know I can't speak for all the fire departments, but I believe most of them still do have. It is it
that's my
is
understanding.
it is fading away, but definitely it is not the same as when I got in, and it's not my pension is not the same as previous. Um, Probably about 10 years before I got in, it changed. So it keeps changing, right? So the pension keeps changing, the benefits keep getting reduced, or you have to do more to get the benefits. So
And the underfunded, I mean, we see it all around the nation, these underfunded pensions.
well, so to that extent, ours is a little bit of a, I don't know if you want to call it a Ponzi scheme, right? But like I am funding the retired guys, right? So
Right.
they're taking automatically out of my paycheck to fund to put into the pension for supposed to be for me, but what it's really doing is funding the guys that are
The current
retired,
guys.
and then so the guys after me have to stay longer because they got to fund when I retire, right? So it's just a whole system, but it is definitely, like you say, it is handcuffs. So a lot of guys see it, and that's why they get caught up. Like I have, like you're saying, that we're going back to the whole loyalty thing, right?
Right.
So it definitely, I see it as to somewhat of a benefit because the pension is definitely great, but at the same time, it does limit a lot of maybe growth in a sense because it is tying you up and maybe you're not as mobile or you're not pursuing other things, right? Because your only avenue is thinking I have to get promoted, I have to work overtime, I need to pad my pension to some extent, and that kind of impacted me a little bit a lot earlier in my career because I haven't talked about it quite a bit, but when I was, I probably only had maybe 5, 6 years in the department at that time. But when me and my son's mom were still together, she always wanted to move back to North Carolina. So that was something she always wanted to do, and I was like, I can't, we can't move. I got my pension,
Right.
things like that. So I think definitely having the options and mobility to move is very beneficial in where we're at in society today, right? To have those options. So
Yeah.
if I had other, streams of income, or if I had other things set up in place, it would have been fine for me to either move to a different fire department in North Carolina, or just take up another career at that time, right? So definitely mobility is a big player in where we're at today.
And that's what, let's talk about those too. So optionality, I would call it optionality and adaptability. I would add another word with it is I think we realize in life now one stream of income, which worked back in the 80s and 90s, one stream of income and saving off of that into 401ks, one stream of income will not work now. Now you have, if you're married, multiple two streams of income, but even that is not working anymore. You have to build multiple streams, even past two now. You've got to have side businesses, multiple streams, more than just even the incomes of two people together. It's just continuing to add. You've got to have multiple streams, but having the ability to adapt. And this goes back to education. Most people, and you'll see the people falling further and further behind. And Dion says YouTube University. And I loved that description because that really frames what YouTube has become for me and for many of us is we're learning off of these videos and we're all teaching and teaching our experiences and we're learning from each other. That the people that stop reading, stop watching educational type videos, when they're not growing, they get further and further and further behind. And we see those people out in society and their incomes get eaten alive because they're not adaptable to the new technology. They're not continuing to progress. They either stop at the end of high school or stop at the end of college and they're not continuing to learn, and so their careers kind of stagnate.
So Steven, who just retired from the FDNY, says we still have a pension here in New York, but the reason I want to invest in real estate is because 10 to 15 years down the road, inflation will eat away at our retirement. Yeah, most definitely. And I think to that point, I think that's how the game has changed quite a bit, right? So that's
Yeah.
why a lot of these 8 rules that you were kind of maybe taught when you're growing up don't come into play or are going to really put you behind the way the game is being played today. And I think a lot of it is, maybe inflation was somewhat controlled. There was your dollar wasn't being devalued as rapidly, maybe 30, 40 years ago. But today it seems as if that is the plan, right? I think we have a lot of debt built up in the US, right? And instead of trying to cut spending and things like that, as you can see what happens when they try to do that, everyone throws a fit, right? Like, why, you're trying to cut my spending or this. So the
Right.
only way to really address it is, it sounds like everyone is just going to try to grow their way out of it, right? And I think with that happening, like you said, our dollar is being devalued or your spending power is being devalued, and inflation is a big factor now. So what people were doing 30, 40 years, or the blueprint is just not going to work today, right?
Let me walk you through the math, Mark, because I'm walking everybody else through that math. And this is one of the things I was teaching a couple of weeks ago at a chamber event. So let's walk through it. So if we say inflation, I'm just going to use that last inflation number of 2.7. That's only on certain aspects of what they calculate, but what we feel is definitely, I believe it definitely double that. So let's just use 5.5. Let's just say it's only 5.5, and yet they don't put in real assets because real assets grow, inflate even more than consumables, which is what they track. Well, 5.5%. So we're trying to figure out what is break even. And if you look at retirement plans, because what is it taxed at? It's taxed at earned income, the highest tax rate out there. So let's just say we're going to keep the same income we always have, and we're in the 22% tax rate. We're making over 100,000 because we're going to definitely need that to live 10, 20 years from now. So we're in that 22% tax rate. If inflation is 5.5%, and you take that 22% tax rate, so you have to net that out, and you take 5.5% divided by 0.78 to allocate for income taxes. The break even is 7.05%. That's break even on your investment is 7%. Well, what did the S&P do over the last 25 years? It was 7.3. So all you've done is the dollars you invested 25 years ago only equate to the same dollar purchasing power today. You're not getting ahead. And that's what I think everybody's seeing is the old method of saving. You can't get ahead. You've got to do something that compounds better.
I want to keep touching on some of these rules that no longer work, but
Yeah,
before we wrap things up, I definitely want to. Trisha brings up the interview between Zuber and Jason Hartman, so I do want to touch on a few things from that, and also Lynn has a great question about the 401k, but we can dig into that a little bit after. But yeah, I definitely want to dig into a few more of these. But yeah, I think definitely to Steven's point about his pension, right? I mean, it is great. It does provide a lot of security, but at the same time, like you're saying, talking about inflation, if you don't have other assets, if you don't have, especially cash flowing assets, which is very helpful, you're going to be living almost that scarcity mindset or scarcity lifestyle where you're going to have to continue to be cutting back on your spending or living to some extent. And who wants to do that while they're retired, right? I mean, I think most people want to be doing certain things when they're retired, and maybe
right.
living a certain lifestyle, right? So if you don't plan that way, and I think Stephen, that's great that you're looking to get into real estate, realizing that your pension is great, but at the same time, it probably won't be giving you the same benefits 10 to 15 years from now, right? The one that really always hits me is the one about follow your passion.
Right.
And I think that one has definitely, the more and more I think about it, has changed over time. And that's especially me. And my son's 10 years old. I'm not sure if you ever, you went through it with your kids, but trying to maybe not push them in a certain direction, but how do you, right, like not tell them to not 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 to follow their passion, but at the same time, we have to have a real discussion about if you want to be a cartoonist or make comics, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
how much money realistically are you going to make, right? So that's the discussion I'm trying to balance right
And
now.
and we're having that with, our kids are now heading to college. My two oldest are looking at that, and I'm trying to have those conversations of, yeah, following passions gives you interest, but channeling their natural gifts into a career that can work. Finding those natural gifts that work for a career that's viable. Um, you always hear those starving artists. There are very few artists that are super wealthy. You might have an interest in painting, but is it really going to pay for a life? You have to think through that. And my daughters are going through that. I asked them yesterday, we were in the car. I was sharing with you, we were in the car driving 7 hours, and I went through and I was in the girl car. I was the driver of all the girls in the car.
It probably would have only took 5 hours for a normal driver, but at the way you drive, that's why it took
I
seven
know.
hours.
Well, I asked them, I said, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I wanted them to start really thinking, and I was hearing some, answers and asking them further questions on where did they see themselves. And it was pretty interesting because all these girls were 20, 19, 18, and one 17-year-old, and just hearing where they thought they would be 10 years from now. And then also have an opportunity to help give counsel, wise counsel, of helping them and understanding their natural gifts that I see in them. But that's, we're trying to help our children overcome what we've had to struggle with in our careers. You're right. Getting a college degree does, I feel like it opens some doors, but sometimes if you've over leveraged yourself in debt, I've seen it because I was on the lending side. My wife was too. And these especially in the millennial and the Gen Z group, they were coming out with so much debt that it actually held them back because they couldn't get on the property ladder, getting even their first home, because they had exorbitant college debt. They could never get ahead. And we are trying to counsel them to not do that now, is to really think through that, because they were selling education so hard. And that's when the escalation of education prices went up so much that now these kids were coming out with $75,000, $150,000 debts in college. They were, I guess, so behind, 10 years plus behind than all of us coming out of college with very little or no debt. And we could get on the property ladder that much quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the discussion is always, okay, if this is the career path that you want to do or look at, you have to probably realize that your living or cost of living is going to have to be this low or this minimal because the like you're saying, how much will many artists make possibly, right, realistically wise, right? So
Realistically.
if this is something that you want to follow, then you will probably be living in a shoebox maybe, right? To that. Or but now if you flip it and say, let's say you go in the trades and make some money off the bat, and you get your finances secure, and you still want to be making cartoons or toys or something. Now you have more flexibility because you already have this financial kind of backing, kind of stability. So different ways to look at it. I don't want to say one is right or wrong, but definitely I think the discussion of there's trade-offs there, right? So you have to realize, I think getting in debt though is the one that's really gonna hold you back, right? So
And that's a big headwind. And I speak on that. That is one of the headwinds. Talk about taxes, debt, and inflation. It's really the debt of consumer bad debt. And I think educational debt, man, I'm not sure if that's great debt. It's not, I wouldn't call it necessarily bad, but you've got to be very wise in how much of that.
so let's see. I want to kind of tie in. We're talking about rules that maybe don't benefit in the way the game is played today. So Lynn does bring up, what do you guys think about removing the penalty for 401ks? Would you cash out at that point? So, a lot of people do put money in the 401ks for retirement planning, right? But there is talks of them not outright removing the penalties. It's more of I would say they're making it more flexible on how people can access it to possibly use without a penalty, right? So, what is your thoughts on that?
I know a lot of people, me included. I realized I couldn't get ahead with a 401k plan, even with the matching. It wasn't growing to reach financial freedom. So I cashed out and moved it over into real estate and it was the right decision. I think, let me say, Lynn, maybe it's this new proposal of cashing out some of your 401k or getting a loan against your 401k with no penalty to buy your home. That has been used before. I remember it before. Um, the only principle I think about, and I don't know, is I think your homestead is a loss. It costs you money, and you're taking something that's compounding, and you're losing money in a homestead in that it costs you money. Yes, the asset compounds, but it's not growing as a retirement necessarily. Good or bad, I'm not certain. Everybody's got a different opinion. I do want these younger group to get on the property ladder, so I see the positives to that. Maybe there's a better way, and that's what we've taught. This house hack model, I think, is a better way, where you're getting in with 3.5 or 5% down on a, let's just say, a duplex. You can qualify with some of the rents from those tenants, even a fourplex. You can get some of that benefit of that rent to help qualify for that loan. I think that's an opportune way to do it without having to maybe do it with 401k, because you can
Yeah.
maybe get in with $20,000-$30,000 into your first rental.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
absolutely.
teaching.
Yeah, no, I definitely I think it can be very useful, a useful tool, right? Very beneficial, but it's also like you're saying, right? It's if you're gonna access it and use it to buy real estate or buy like you're saying, if it's used for a primary residence, hopefully you have the knowledge or community around you to recommend you to buy a primary residence that can be used as a house hack or
That would be the opportune way, is to use it as a house hack instead of just a single family where it's yours and it's all expense. Using that 401k for a house hack, I think, is actually probably the most optimum way to do it.
Yeah. So hopefully, people that if it does come to fruition and people are around, people that could advise them to be like, hey, if you're gonna access this money, definitely, maybe the best way to use it is to look into some sort of uh, real estate that either also lowers your living expense at the same time, or even possibly generate some income for yourself. But that would be the most ideal way to do it. I do want to also touch in and kind of tie in. We're talking about how the game has changed,
Right.
and like I said, Zuber and Jason Hartman's also going to be is one of the keynote speakers in Vegas, and Brandon's also preparing for his presentation in Vegas. And I didn't actually hear it, but I believe somebody mentioned there is tickets still available. Um,
Well, I think Michael mentioned something. He would love to get more of that younger group, and that he would open up the ability to still come if you had a younger teenage age, person to come. Because I think this meeting, this family reunion in February, he's trying to help that group. He really is brought in two Gen Z speakers opening up each day. And I think he's having a heart for this younger group, because his daughter, I can't remember how old, probably similar to my kid's age, very similar, that he wants to speak to that Gen Z group that's trying to get on the property ladder.
it looks like Josh Burdick says he heard there's 18 tickets still. Yeah, I think some people are having to maybe cancel their plans. Chris Webb, not to mention
Right.
anybody else, but Chris Webb, who's tuning in, is possibly canceling. But before we dig into, like I said, Trisha's question, I do want to give a shout out. Brandon did mention a book a few weeks back, maybe I think on the other live. Luke Howard is saying he started reading the book Brandon recommended, Retire in 10 Years or Less. He's enjoying it so far.
Well, and I would mention this. I'm glad this was brought up, Luke. I do not, in any statement, and I don't think anybody else is going to agree with me 100%. We should have our own thoughts. There are things in this book I've read I'm not certain of. I'd say there's so many good things in it. There's 80, 85 plus that I'm like wholeheartedly, I'm all in. It teaches great principles. There's some of it right now I'm in discovery mode. It talks about the vault and it uses overfunded whole life insurance. I don't know all that. I'm still in discovery. I can't say definitive yes or no. I do have some opinions of whole life insurance, so I'm not 100% sold on that, but I'm open. And this is that adaptability and option. I'm open to listening. I will go into discovery. So these books are good that I recommend. Same thing with Kiyosaki's books. I probably don't agree absolute 100%, but I will say that book is one of the best books I've read in a couple of decades on finances and how they frame the challenge of this current generation of getting to financial freedom. He does frame it extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the greatest type of
So
books,
thanks for
right?
that,
That's
Luke, for bringing that back up.
But I think that's the greatest type of books, right? Books that make you think. You're not going to always agree with everything in there. And um, touching on books, like I said, I'll give another Brady to go check out Brady's YouTube channel, who's in the chat. He did come out. His book is on Amazon, but if you want to know more about it, I think his most recent video, he is breaking down his book, and you can see if that
Yep.
strategy makes sense for you or works for you. But I mean, quickly too on Rich Dad Poor Dad. Even like I said, I've touched on it before. The first time I read it, I thought it was the stupidest book ever because I was always told that your home is an asset, right? Or your where you live is your house is an asset, especially in Hawaii. Everything is so expensive, so it's like, yeah, you buy a home, right? You just live in it for 30 years, and you're a millionaire, right? And it really made me like, this book doesn't make sense. But now you look on it now, right? Yeah, if it's not producing income, you could definitely say it's not really a asset, right? But the video with Zuber and Jason Hartman, shoots, where did it go? They were kind of discussing the idea that AI is going to eliminate a lot of the service industry would die out. Trisha does disagree with that. She does say, add on, that AI cannot make truly creative solutions to problems. HVAC, plumbers, electricians, and other skilled trades require creativity in addition to task regulation knowledge. So, what is your thoughts on AI either changing the game some more, or is it going to improve on the game that we're maybe playing right now?
I'm looking back at my life, and there's been several things that they say causes the end of all kinds of careers. There has been times that has been right, and there's been times they said the internet was going to change a lot of careers too. So, it remains to be seen. I'm pretty open to the discussion. I just don't know enough, and we're going to see. But it seems like sometimes they always overplay or over exaggerate something because they want it. And I just don't know. So I'm going to watch. I can
Well,
see it does work. I'm still learning it. I mean, I think maybe all of us are trying to learn what all it does and just amazed at what AI is doing. But then we also have seen AI used in customer service, and sometimes it's crap. It is junk, and it's not working well. So because it doesn't have the ability, the creativity, like she's describing.
absolutely. The way I kind of looking at it and kind of taking away from that video is also there. Hartman really believes that, so a lot of people are talking about UBI, right? Universal Basic Income is in the future. But I don't know if he came up with this or he picked it up from another video or something, but he was thinking that it's going to be, or maybe Elon mentioned it, but it's going to be universal higher
High
income,
income. Yeah.
right? So because of AI, right, people will probably, or those that own assets, those that are going to be able to make more money, right? To some, so
It's a
um,
utopian thought, and I would challenge Elon on this, and I mean it. I would challenge him. If everybody had $1 million, what would things be worth? Well, guess what? They would escalate in value. If everybody was given $1 million, and that's kind of the concept he's talking about. What number is that? Well, if everybody has $1 million to spend, what happens to the prices of all the products? We saw it. We just experienced it in COVID. Many people got these stimulus checks, and everybody was competing for the same items which caused the escalation of the prices because they were printing money. What do you think, Mark?
Well, so to what you just finished up with your statement, that's where I would push back in that you said printing of money, right? So I believe the way or where Elon is coming from on this is that AI is going to allow the production of things to be so much greater, the more creation of businesses, more creation of opportunities. So it won't be that they're printing money, it's that the money will be coming from production, right? So I think that would be where I'd push back on that. Like you're saying, yeah, absolutely right though. Yeah, if it was just money came out of thin air in a sense, and you're giving these people money, like you're saying, there's more demand for the same amount of goods in a sense, right? But I think where Elon's coming from is that it's because of AI, goods will come out faster, production will be greater, there'll be more businesses, people will be able to focus on things of more production than these tasks that maybe the AI can eliminate for certain things, right? So I think where he's coming from is that because of AI, incomes will be greater because of production. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll still
We're
be
creating
inflationary.
it from thin air. It is.
Well, so that would
It,
be
it is
well.
because it should be just like it is today. The money, the dollars should go to the people that create the most value. And if everybody has similar value or created value, I don't know. That's what I think.
So let's see. I do see a few things. Let's see. Let's see. We're trying to. I mean, I should share all of these, but so
There's quite a
so
few.
so Harrison is saying though, Brandon, it could actually lead to deflation with cheaper production using AI. We can finally compete against Temu.
Well, guess
Brady,
what? Things have been made cheaper and cheaper, and they haven't gone down. Not
true.
many things have gone down.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I would lean on the side that I see AI being scary, but definitely gonna help a lot of people build wealth if they're playing it the right way. And you're either going to be accumulating assets, starting a business, like I said, playing the new game that's out there, or if you still believe in just saving and having one stream of income and a lot of the things that we're talking about, I think you're gonna fall faster and faster behind than those that are accumulating assets and things.
You've got to be adaptable. And what we say here is either you're the windshield or you're the bug. You're one of the two.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're driving, the bug's not going to get hurt. I mean, if you're driving below the speed limit, then it's not going to matter.
Hey, when a bug hits the windshield, I always say, man, he won't have the guts to do that again.
Let's see. Yeah, Brady says AI is definitely replacing jobs. It only takes one person to do the work of five now. But yeah. I mean, but even more so, back to kind of circling back around, I think that's also why the trades will be very lucrative too, right? So a lot of those things you probably would never be able to eliminate with just AI alone,
Right.
but it also could make those in the trades way more efficient and take on different types of jobs because of they have the trade skills, but now whatever tools are being created, whatever AI is helping them with, it can just make them better at whatever they are doing, right?
Right. It remains to be seen. We're still at the infancy stage, I believe, of
Oh
what's
yeah, absolutely. So, well, I mean, before we maybe anything else any other of those eight that you want to touch on?
mm, patience without action becomes inaction. What do you think?
Hmm. Patience without inaction. Where did that one go? I don't even.
Patience without action becomes
Oh,
inaction.
okay. So I think yeah. So that's I had that one under play it safe and be patient, kind of right. Okay. Whew, man. Um, it's a tough one. It's a tricky one because I think
Yeah.
it's easy to jump from the next shiny object, right? But at the same time, I think, like you're saying, we have to be adaptable. So we have to be willing to either change our views on things. We have to be willing to pivot when we see certain signs. But being patient is very important too, because as we know, the first 5 years suck, right? So you kind of have to weather that
Yeah.
storm. But if I had to lean one way or the other, I would be on the side of taking action. And if I had to be on a side of either being too patient or being too active, I would lean on the side of being more active. That's the side I would lean on.
I will say for me, it's a combination of both, and knowing when you should be patient to make the right decision, and when impatience causes bad decisions. And when we were in, I've mentioned this before, we were in Branson, Missouri, and I do see a lot of people's, their mindset is, and I call it the Veruca principle. And I even got a little card here just to remind me. I know I'm silly, but I got a little card here because I look at, we've seen that attitude. I want it and I want it now. They're very impatient and all kinds of things. I want it and I want it now. And we've watched people jump wholeheartedly in thinking they're doing the right action. They didn't know what they didn't know and they made bad decisions. And I've seen this in real estate. Well, they'll jump in and buy multiple doors or 20 doors or 30 doors in a year. And then they found out they didn't know what they didn't know. And now they're paying a very heavy price of a lesson because they were impatient. They wanted it all now. They thought they were speeding up, but they ended up slowing themselves down by all the mistakes. I like it for me on the build to rent. If I were to have built all of my properties in the same year, I guarantee I would have lost more money and not made as much. All these builds force my patience as I'm learning to build these in 7, 9 months. It gives me time to dial lessons from it in, and then every build I've been able to improve upon. But if I would have done it all at once, I would have already made lots of extra errors trying to do them all at once. That I want it all now.
I think the ideal situation is you are patient, but you move with purpose. I think that would be
Yeah,
like the most
that's
ideal,
exactly it.
right? So you want to be patient, calculated, but when it's time to move, you move, right? And so
Right.
I think that would be the ideal way I would look at it. But I think based on like they're saying the 8 rules that don't apply anymore to the way the game is played, I think they're talking more about, like you're saying, just the whole staying in one career for
I think that's
30,
more
40 years, right? Just saving money, things like that. So
and with that patience where I see it working is even what Zuber talks about of knowing what average is. So knowing what average is allows patience, but then also allows action. The moment you see a great deal, because you know what average is and you find a deal that's great or good, you can pounce and go into action instantly because you were patient in learning what average was.
I'm not gonna dig into that yet because I didn't get a chance to read it, but I know Zuber is writing every day, so he posts something in school and on LinkedIn. But I did see it pop up on my notifications. His most recent one, it says, "Please do not aim for average." I do not know what it is. I didn't read it, but it's just funny you touched on that about average. So I will take a peek at that after. But I do. Where was it? There was one thing I want to touch on before we do wrap things up today. But there was a question. That's why. Oh, here it is. Luke Howard is asking, where do you see value in using AI for your real estate investing model?
I'm in the early stages of that so far. The only thing I really haven't used it on the build model just yet. Um, Man, I don't have a great answer for that. I know a lot of people are starting to look for investments, giving it their buy box and having AI help them find properties that fit that buy box. They'll do a general AI. It's all about the prompt that you put into the AI saying, I'm looking for this property, and give the details to their exact buy box, and then giving so specific of where they're looking, and it will find properties that fit that model. I know a lot of people are doing that. I haven't done it yet. I could probably do that with land, and I probably need to check into that. I've just got the land right now, and I know where to find it, so I'm not needing that application just yet.
Yeah, so I haven't used it. I do know people that are probably using AI. That's how they're finding equity in property, right? For owners that have a lot of equity, possibly they're probably finding who owns certain properties, what entities. But I mean, it's used as so, like for example, insurance quotes, right? You get an insurance policy, you just upload that into your AI. You may have another, different quote. You upload both policies, and you say, hey, compare these two policies. What may I be missing in a certain policy? Where should I be more concerned?
I've seen that.
Compared.
Yep.
So that is one thing. Also, when if I do get when I get inspection reports, I'll just, I mean, I personally look through the inspection reports, but I also upload it into AI and say, give me some red flags. What are the breakdowns on this inspection report? In, let's say Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this zip code. What would be possibly the average cost of repairs to do on this inspection report, blah, 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 scope of work. And it just, I mean, it's just giving you an idea of costs, what the inspection report might be telling you that you may want to try to get credits for, or, but it also prevents a way, it gives you a way to present to the seller, like, hey, this is the cost breakdown of, based on an inspection report, these are the things that came up.
Right.
These are some estimates that, so what can you offer me to get this deal to the finish line type of thing, right? So that's how I'm currently using it. And I do use a banking platform, Baselane, but it also has AI features in that now. So once you start tagging some of your transactions, like for example, the mortgage payments, it's the same for the properties basically for the whole year, right? For the whole month, and so it's tagged. So I don't have to pretty much touch it anymore. So once it automatically gets withdrawn from the account, it's already flagged to this particular property, whatever category it's going to go under, your mortgage payment, and so that way it saves time once you start. So there's still work to be done with AI. It doesn't automatic once you prompt it, then it
Right.
definitely makes things easier.
And Luke, by the way, is my nephew.
Sorry, Luke. Sorry to hear that, man.
So Luke, get in touch with me, and I can give you some other books. Would be happy to help you if you have that interest.
And then I have to share Harrison's point because I think this sounds like he's agreeing with me. But following up, he said AI allows for multiple startup decentralized services and production, leading to a race to the bottom. For example, way to make better meat processing in a smaller to smaller farms. So yeah. Let's see what else. Anything else we need to touch? Stan is giving an example how he uses AI. I've been able to outline a buy box with AI and have it search Zillow to get results. It narrows it down to a small enough list that I can then look at more closely personally. Yep.
And that is what I've seen. That is the one, and maybe somebody was showing that before. I'd never seen it, and that's exactly what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, it's same thing. It's whatever prompts you put in. Of course, you'll probably put in like, this, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this zip code, uh, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, maybe 1,100 square feet. Built after 1950. Not in a flood zone. Blah blah blah. And then you throw it in, and then it'll probably come up with a lot of options for you to look at.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep. So exactly. So yeah, AI results aren't perfect. Need to be double checked. But yeah, it's a nice. It definitely filters some things out. Hey, Jack's here. Morning, Jack.
And Luke
Uh,
needs to get a duplex. Just so I
ooh,
know you're listening, Luke. That's your next purchase, and we can talk about it. That should
Maybe
be what you start with.
maybe this is a bot. Maybe Jack's a bot because it says Mark's best guess. So I think he's saying the best guess is on today. So this has to be a bot out there.
You
uh,
send him that $100 bill, right?
hey, what's up, Bill? So yeah, is Luke gonna be going to Vegas? Did you convince him to come to Vegas?
No, we hadn't really talked about it, but he should.
Yeah,
He's right in that generation, that demographic we're trying to influence.
all right. Anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to bring
I
up?
think that's in for today. I was telling you, Mark, that this is my busiest month of the year. This is the month where I'm having to get out a lot of 1099s, W-2s. I've got a small business, and this is actually my busiest, craziest month. It gets easier from here. So this is the month I'm actually working.
You know what? You know what? Though, I mean, if you're willing to just quickly maybe wrap things up with, I know people always trying to figure out tenant type things. I think that's probably people's biggest struggle. You did mention maybe there's a tenant right now that. So you did kind of mention maybe you kind of felt that you probably shouldn't have moved forward with this person, right, in the
Well, we
beginning.
didn't at that moment. We didn't know. I mean, you can't do these those type of tests. We've had a challenge. We manage over 200 doors, including mine, and my property manager has been in the business 20 years, and we've have a very unique case where somebody they're just not right. I'm being very careful in this situation, but they're not right, and we've offered them without penalty to be able to leave and terminate their lease because they're coming up with some crazy charges that we know are not right and are absolutely not correct, and dealing with somebody that's got lots of issues. I'll just say it that way, and not rational. And so we've been happy to offer them, hey, you move on. You move if you're obviously not happy, we'll let you out without penalty of termination. And it's a challenge. That was what was happening last Tuesday. On my phone was blowing up because of this one tenant, and we're just constantly dealing with this issue. We'd love them to move on. It's this that's part of the active part. This is somewhat passive, but there is a little bit of active feature, but you get rewarded. That's what I love about real estate. Even though it's not passive, there's active, you get a reward because returns are so much better.
Nicole is saying she's having Gemini help with getting her main house ready to rent. It's awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to use AI. But let's wrap things up because before you change your dang name for YouTube, it was
I am staying with
build to
building
rent.
wealth. No, it's building wealth flow now.
No, no, I said yeah before you changed it, but it was build to rent. But Bill is asking, does the build to
Mm.
rent work for someone who knows nothing about building?
It can. It can. And there are steps. You would need to get a good general contractor who's willing, that has a good reputation, and get the pricing. You can hire a I am not the builder. I don't know it all. I've learned after every build more and more, but I've still had a general contractor doing the builds for me and been able to make money and have instant equity. So it's finding a good general contractor, and it's usually your local guys that are girls, whoever, local people that are building maybe 5, 10 builds, sometimes even less than 5, but they're just building just a few a year, that are looking for business, that have a great reputation. That's where I started all of my builds. It was not me building them. I had a general contractor. So you don't have to know it all. You just knowing, who do I hire that knows more than me? That general contractor.
Great answer. Like I said, Brady Morgan, who's in the chat, also does kind of a build to rent model. He does have a YouTube channel, and he came out with a book recently on Amazon, Never Sell. So he is saying, Bill, reach out to him. But there is his YouTube channel in the chat. So if you want to connect with Brady, because unfortunately we can't convince him to be in Vegas for the one rental at a time event. And yeah, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. There was one. Oh, here's the last question then for you. Where did Jack put it? Are you getting another neon sign then?
Well, I don't want to blow the money right now. I'm holding my money accountable. But I will say down the road, I love the design of the dollar bill inside of the house. And the thing that I would change below it would just be built wealth flow, building wealth flow or something like that. But my wife said no. I get that answer quite a bit.
All right. Yeah, everyone, thanks
Not
for
anytime
tuning in.
soon.
It's always a fun time with Brandon. Like I said, Vegas is about 3 weeks away.
3 weeks out.
I
I've
hope.
got to get my PowerPoint to Michael. He sent me an email and asking for the PowerPoint, so I've got to do that this week. I actually already had it done for several weeks now, and just get it over to him for my presentation.
PowerPoint, man, it's gonna make
Hey, but
everyone go to sleep.
you'll like it. It's not a typical PowerPoint. There's it looks good. I promise.
All right, yeah, everyone, 3 weeks to Vegas. I believe there's still some tickets available. So if you haven't decided, go hurry up and grab your tickets now. And just we'll wrap things up. You did Bill, you did mention or build to rent. Brandon touched on contractors. Just another reason for people to join school. There is going to be this Sunday is the kickoff. Jim, the grumpy contractor, is starting a contractor call on Sundays.
Yep.
I believe it's 10 a.m. Pacific. So it'll be a group of contractors possibly going over burrs. You can probably submit inspection reports, things like that, and they'll break it down for you folks. But another reason for $20 a month, come check out school, and you also get to see the Vegas event stream live in school. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. Brandon, thanks for doing this, and I'll
Enjoyed it.
see everyone tomorrow, same time. Thanks, everyone.